Hello everyone and welcome to the Anvils of Conor YouTube channel. In today's video I'm going to be covering gap filling on the plastic Deredeo dreadnought that Games Workshop released last year. I absolutely love the fact that they've made this kit really accessible, but unlike the resin version that we had from Forge World where the torso was more or less one block of resin, this is several different panels and armor panels and all that kind of stuff. And there are quite a few gappy joins in it, which even veteran model makers and hobbyists would struggle to swerve. So the purpose of today's video is just a very quick guide how we can minimize or completely eliminate those gaps on this model using a clay shaper, that they're called. This is the medium density chisel shape. I think, you can see here, it's so withered, so oft used. Size 2, there we go. But the company is Royal Sovereign Limited, if you're interested. And we're going to be using standard milliput and a tiny amount of water, okay? We may well be jumping in with our scalpel as well, just to tidy things up if required. But join me in the next section of the video where we will start working some magic with milliput. Welcome back to the tutorial, everyone. As you can see, I've mixed up a little pea-sized blob of standard milliput. Really thoroughly kneaded it to make sure that there are no imperfections in the mix. So cold weather can play merry hell with all these sorts of putties. And what I'm going to do for starters is just on the palm of my hand, very gently, going to roll out. Just make sure there are no imperfections, that your hands are somewhat clean. Right, and I want to just get a little snake of material there, and we're going to start mapping out where we're going to be gap filling. Probably going to start with the most protected parts of the model. So any of you, that's probably too much there. It's a bit of trial and error here with how much you'll need exactly. But as any of you who have done any kind of sculpting with milliput will know, you very often ruin your own work by just getting a clumsy thumb in there. So what I'm going to do is just kind of gently force it in there. I've started using saliva a bit more actually for this kind of job, and we don't want too much on there. But the great thing about why milliput is so much better than we're going to use our scalpel just to tidy things up as we go. But why I prefer milliput in many ways to green stuff is that it's just a lot easier to sort of meld and create like a continuous flush finish with the model. So there we go. Whenever this shaper goes walkabout, so I'm just popping it back in the gob. Okay, don't need to be absolutely too precise with this. Again, as required, we can just use our scalpel to remove any excess as required. And when it comes around to painting as well, that will, when we get a layer of primer on there, that will give us a really good idea of how much we might need to take off altogether. You can see here, it melds in really nicely, so you can do like a little wagging motion side to side, really get it nice and flush. And the other great thing about milliput is that when it's cured, it's very easy to sand or scrape, unlike green stuff, which is very tacky. All right, so we're just working our way around. Okay, we just want to make sure that we're not leaving any tool marks where possible. Do a real gentle pass here. All right, so it's not the prettiest work. We can, if we really want to, if we're paranoid that will be visible, we can just take it off now and then go over with the with the tool, with the little colour shaper. Alright. Again, if it's not absolutely perfect, don't panic, because you can always go back when it's completely dried. Alright. We've got the next little section here. Little cowl. In fact, let's roll out a little tiny piece there. Yeah, it's a stunning kit, really nice, but with any of the plastic dreadnoughts, I think 9 out of 10 users would probably say great, but not without some difficulty. So hence why I've wanted to put this video out for a while, and for free on YouTube. I will be doing a tutorial for mad catting Deredeos. So Mad Cat, I think, is like a Battletech. Is it Battletech? Mech Warrior, something like that. It's a type of mech, I believe, and it's where basically you give the Deredeo a like back jointed legs. All right, so you can just use your finger as well just to tidy this up. You need to get another little close up there. Okay, so we've got this little bit here, and then the trickiest is going to be along this sort of knife edge. Well, it's not really a knife edge, but along this prominent edge here. So go back to our hand. I've probably got a little bit too much on there, to be honest. So let's pop that back on there. So you'll see I usually use a clean Games Workshop base when I'm doing this kind of work. I've had a big old tidy of my hobby space just to help me take stock. Just grabbing one thing, something else comes off. Marvellous. Well, let's start from the bottom then. If you're going to be like that, milliput, thank you very much. So again, you don't want the tool too wet, otherwise the milliput will not adhere to the material, to the plastic. You've got to be able to press it down with enough force. Alright, okay. So this is going to be interesting. Alright, so you can see here, I've sort of smushed it down on one side, and then we have a kind of flap over the other, okay? So using a very sharp scalpel blade, just going to gently sort of tease that off. Okay, so if we've got less material to worry about, we can focus more on just getting this nicely pressed down onto the model. Again, we want to do as much now as we can to minimize the amount of work we might have to do down the line when we're like prepping it for painting. Right, okay. So what we'll do again, a bit too much there. And a little bit too much there again. So just be patient. It can be, not always, a slightly more involved process. Very good practice though with the material. I don't really know why it's tearing away like that. Maybe my tool's not quite wet enough. Okay. So we want a nice crisp edge there, so we can be confident when we come around to painting that it's going to be a nice straight line. Great for like nice little edge highlight. Alright, so there we go. Should be quite neat. And then we go on to the dreaded edge here, okay? So, I'm just gonna get that little snake that we did earlier. This might need several passes, so I'm just off camera, just rolling out some nice thin bits here. Again, less is more, so don't worry too much if you have to do a few different bits. So I'm going to just load this base up with another little strip there. And then you need to find like a nice little anchor point. So what I'd recommend, I nearly just ruined that work on the top there, you see. So, okay. So I want to find a nice gap where I can push the material in and it can just sit there and not really get in our way. And then very gently, what I'll do is just push it in a downward motion. Again, you don't want to be too violent or too keen, because you might find that the material is very easy to tear. And this side is relatively easy because I can use this side to hold onto the model, so we'll see what happens. Let's make sure the tool is lubed up enough. Now this is probably way too much material here anyway. Alright, but we're just gonna push it along, see how we go. And then as before, again making sure that tool's nice and sharp. I'm just going to, without cutting into the plastic, he says. There you go, so just getting rid of that excess there, you can see. Alright. We're going to kind of get away with using the bare minimum modelling putty if we can. Sorry, ASMR with my saliva there. Again, just want to make sure that we don't have anything on the tip here that will cause our work to be any less smooth. Now with this bit, I would probably recommend going back afterwards with a tool of some description. That's kind of grim, sorry about that. Alright, just nice and gently smooth. You're going to kind of eyeball it. Alright, so we want to have that keen ridge across the side. That is by no means perfect, but it's certainly better than a nasty gap. Like I said, the beauty of milliput is its ability to hold its shape when you then bring some tools with it later. Bring some tools with it, rather, just refine it, okay? So you can spend as much or as little time as you want just trying to tease that material into place. We've got a bit too much there. Just going to scrape that off very gently. Alright, so that's one side almost done. Let's crack on. Again, just constantly making sure that we don't have any material on our hands. So I'm just going to wipe that dry. This might take a couple of attempts to anchor on. Okay, get that downward motion, pushing downwards with the tool, just almost smearing it in place. Okay, that's easy enough to see for you guys at home. Take your time and wet the nib, wet the tip. Okay. So you get all sorts of other ways that you can potentially do this gap filling. In my opinion, they require a little bit more understanding of things like sprue glue. That's where you melt a load of sprue into very fine plastic glues like this. Tamiya extra thin cement. So you melt a load of plastic into there and it creates this kind of goopy material that's very good for welding, almost welding gaps like this. But the downside to that is that you need very good knife skills to be able to obfuscate its use or to hide its use down the line. Okay, so you've got a bit to take off the bottom here. Like I said, even I would probably still find that there are imperfections here after getting that primer on. But that's, like I said, it's a great opportunity to then scrape it down as required. So that little lip there, it's almost like when you're making a pastry, I'm going to just get rid of that top bit there. I don't want to be too zealous or overzealous there. So you've got that nice sharp blade. So it's not going to drag the material, it's just going to very gently remove that excess. Again, sorry about the grim close-up, but this is what can happen if the milliput dries out too much. And again, that side as well. We will need a little smidgen on the top there where you've got that joint. So you can see I've already boshed that out, or ruined that rather. Not really ruined it, it's going to be easy to smooth that down. Alright, so I'm probably going to end up putting my finger in it again, but so kind of a fruitless task. Using the existing shape of the torso to help us determine the angle we need. Alright. Pretty good. So what you can keep doing is looking at it from the front, moving it from side to side just to help you work out roughly where you are. Alright. So we're going to use a little bit of the putty that we removed earlier. Let's whack it there. Sorry, I keep shaking because I've got my elbow on my leg. I've had my morning coffee. The old caffeine shakes. Okay. Alright, so, as they say, who dares wins. Let's see if we can do this one as well in this first pass. If not, no worries. We can wait until the first job is done. Again, I'm just removing that excess there. Again, constantly going back and forth with the tool. Could probably do the same there, but I'm not going to. I can do that when it's cured. Again, just tidying those hands off again. Make another little snake. If it wants to actually start rolling, there we go. So we're moving both hands together. See how long we can make this one. Oh, wow. What a beauty. Okay. What does it Steve Irwin would say? Beauty, mate. The issue with great fineness becomes very difficult to keep a hold. So this, in theory, if we do this right, that should be just right. So I'm holding it now from the bottom there. Then really make sure that we don't use too much saliva or lubricant, whatever you want to use. Like a form of lubricant, not saying you need to use lube, but a lubricating material. Again, let's smear. And tease the end off so we don't have that little excess affecting our progress, where it's going to bunch up. This is slow going, so just lock that in, that first bit. Again, moving it around, trying our best not to get our digits in the work we've already completed. Okay, there we go. Back to where we were. Try my best to keep this on camera as well. A pretty crappy tutorial if you couldn't see anything. All right. Ooh, okay. Cut to shape, cut to size. Again, that smear to get it in place, like that. Don't want to drag the material too much. All right, okay, so working from the bottom, let's give it a little smush, like that. And we do a little pastry chef. Get rid of that crust. My favourite analogy in a tutorial I've ever done. Okay, and then just go into several passes. Let's make sure it's well lubricated, like so. And the top bit. Make sure there's no evidence that there were two separate parts of plastic. Nice long consistent strokes here will help try and keep a nice sharp edge there. Let's see if I can bring the lamp a little bit closer for better lighting. So the rivets on the top make it a little bit more difficult to sort of create nice long strokes, but you can always endeavour, just, you know, improve your tool skills. All right, so hopefully we have a fairly consistent edge there. This really will be revealed in the painting process. So what I would recommend is, if you, like I said, if you just maybe from the top, just kind of zoom in there, just see if we can follow that edge, just to see how precise we've made it. Again, I can't stress enough the brilliance with milliput is that you can then, once dried, you can go back and tidy it up as required. So it's precisely what I'm going to do here. Now I want to be super careful now, because I don't want to put my finger there at all. So what I can do is very gently just go around, remove this. Again, you could end up making more work for yourself if you end up distressing the plastic with tool marks. Okay, this is really dried out. Okay. Okay, there we go. Still on top again. But the great thing about milliput, another fantastic, I should sell milliput. I should be a milliput door-to-door salesman. I wonder if those are everything. But the great thing is, or another great thing I should say, is that once it's cured, it adheres to whatever surface it's on beautifully well, especially if there is a nice little niche or crevice that it's been placed on or over or wherever. Right, it's a lot more conservative on this side. That probably hasn't dried out quite so much. Okay, right, there we are. So there will be some work to come back to with this, but for starters, and it would be the equivalent of almost like using the scalpel in a method like removing mold lines, let's say. So we've got, I think the lighting's not very good here, is it? Right, okay. Apologies, let's see if we can manipulate that. I'll just get a nice little thumbnail picture. So that's kind of the basics of using milliput. We've got all those gaps sorted, okay? So it's just a case of just doing a little bit of tidy up work on this down the line. I don't feel like that's very satisfactory for the lighting. Okay, is that a bit better? Okay, there we go. All right, should have started with like that. Okay, so there we go, guys. We've got our Deredeo. I'm just trying to work out, my bloody lamps are not really in the right position for this, but here we go. So gap filling, again, that first pass with the milliput. We'll need to go back either before or after priming just to make some slight adjustments there, okay, as you need. But we want those nice clean edges. You can spend a long time fussing with a tool like this. Whether it's necessary or not, I'm not entirely sure. Again, depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. You might find that you need to put more milliput on afterwards if you've missed any gaps or anything like that. You can follow the processes I've used in this video for that end, all right? But from me, that's it for today. My Patreon video will be mad catting this Deredeo, and I'll probably be doing a standard Anvils of Conal customization so it fits in with the other one, and then I can get them both painted up as part of my 2024 resolution. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments below. Cheers. Bye-bye.